Welcome to Backstage in the Peg. I'm sitting here in our theater. This is a place where we tell stories and grapple with ideas. It seems now more than ever we need to remain connected. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this episode. Enjoy the show. Rick Frost has served as the CEO of the Winnipeg Foundation for the past 23 years, and during his tenure, the foundation has grown tenfold. We sat down to discuss the vital work being done by the foundation and how they are playing a leadership role in the community during this time of crisis.
The foundation started right off with emergency response grants. Back in mid-March, we could, I think the whole community realized we're in the middle of a significant crisis. Everything was shutting down. And fortunately, our grants team knows the community very well. We were able to come out with a whole series of emergency response grants, which we initiated. We didn't wait for applications. And I think that was a very effective part of the program. We got about $2.5 million into the community through that. And now we're into a stage which we're calling the stabilization grants. And we've called for applications. They're due on Monday, June the 1st. And when those, we'll take 1 month and we'll look at those. And we're hoping to put out $6 million through that program into the community. And then we're also working with the federal government on its program, which will be another $1.5 million. So it's going to be a very busy June for the Winnipeg Foundation. But overall, I think the response has been trying to support the charitable organizations, beginning with the most vulnerable people and now looking at the broader community.
It's amazing work that you're helping us stabilize because so many organizations are reeling and need this kind of support. So thank you for the leadership.
Thank you.
I'm so impressed with the history of the Winnipeg Foundation that it was the first community foundation. I think it's defined the culture of giving in Winnipeg. And I'm really excited to hear that you're celebrating the 100th anniversary next year. So just tell us a little bit about what you're doing to mark that milestone.
Well, the Winnipeg Foundation's vision statement is a Winnipeg where community life flourishes for all. And so obviously, we look at the broadest scope of the community. There's well over 1,000 charities in total in the city that we're working with. And so we're obviously going to be reaching out in different ways. Sponsorships is probably going to be one of the major strategies because the reality is by making a sponsorship, we can bring a little profile to our storied history on the one hand, but still be supporting the activity of various charities. And so we'll be putting emphasis on that. I have to say that the COVID-19 situation has probably put a bit of a wrinkle in some of the ideas that we had. Some of the gatherings that we might have wanted to pull together, we're being pretty cautious about that right now. We will obviously take best advantage that we can. Though it's an important part of the history of Winnipeg. We're very proud, obviously, of the institution and all the generous donors for so many generations that have made this organization so effective. It's a tribute really to the generosity of Winnipeggers that our organization exists, and certainly we want to celebrate their generosity as much as we want to celebrate the institution itself.
Touring New Canadian Curling Club was amazing. I was absolutely terrified when we got out of rehearsals and it was time to get into the tour vans. Like that day was so scary because I had never done a show of that, with a length of that runtime before, and to do it on so many different stages, I was like completely nervous. It was my first show right out of school too. But when we got to our first venue and we started performing that first leg of the tour, it was the most freeing feeling to realize that it had nothing to do with me. It was not about me. It was about bringing this show to these places that often don't get to see theater, let alone see theater about people that look like me or Simba or Omar. It was amazing. I was still in my third year of university, and it was my first professional audition. And I was cast as ensemble in the show, and I was cast around these amazing actors who look like me. And so when I got into that room and I got to meet all these incredibly kind, incredibly talented people, it was beautiful. It was such a great experience. The day it got shut down was about a week into rehearsal, and we were already in tech on the main stage. And that was devastating. To me, I had never seen a show in Winnipeg about Afghanistan or about people from the Middle East at all before. And so to be a part of that experience was so important and beautiful, and to have it taken away so soon was very, very sad.
Sophie Smith-Dostmohamed is a Winnipeg-based actor. She is a member of the 3.7% Initiative and co-founder and collaborator of Out From Under the Rug Theatre Collective.
I'm Ari Weinberg, and this is The Punchline, where I toss headlines from previous editions of the Winnipeg Free Press to actors and comedians, and they improvise the articles. This is the Pride edition of The Punchline, and every headline comes from an article that prominently featured the word pride. Happy Pride, everyone. I'm here with Danielle Kayahara, cat lover, coffee lover, and winner of the Winnipeg Comedy Festival's Launchpad competition, and Ryan James Miller, actor, redhead, and member of the 3-time Canadian Comedy Award nominated sketch troupe, Hot Thespian Action. Ryan, you have 30 seconds on the clock, and your headline is, At Rainbow's End, a Golden Boy. Go.
Okay, so this is actually, oddly enough, this is part of my own family history. My great-great-grandfather, Hermes Miller, was actually in the very first production of Rainbow Stage's A Golden Boy. And it's actually not well known. This musical is not really well known by many people, and it's not even really promoted by Rainbow Stage. Because it was such a disaster. Hermes played the Golden Boy, and they had a dome originally, and he had the torch, but he had a lit torch and burned down the original dome.
Oh my goodness!
Wasn't
Wow.
a great moment in Winnipeg or my own family history, but.
Well, Danielle, okay, your headline is Crossing Genres, Breaking Records. 30 seconds on the clock, and it starts now.
Oh, what a brilliant event this was showcasing. I don't know if you remember this. It was a very avant-garde sort of performance piece that took to the stage here in Winnipeg, in which thousands and thousands of vinyl records were just shattered in every performance. If you can imagine something along the lines of, say, a Stomp production or a Blue Man-esque group, they all came from this original performance that blended so many genres within the percussion space. I mean, the genres of music on those vinyl records alone that were destroyed were countless.
Danielle, your headline was from December 7th, 2016. It was originally about Beyoncé. And Ryan, your headline was from May 24th, 2012. So there you have it, folks. That's the punchline. Let's boogie-oogie over to Katie German.
Welcome to Whiz Kids. As the sun comes out and the weather gets nicer, I'm reminded of some of my favorite things to do in the summer. One of my family traditions is going to Rainbow Stage. Rainbow Stage is one of Canada's largest and longest running outdoor theatres located in Kildonan Park and is a summer staple for many families in Manitoba. This season, we would have seen performances from The Drowsy Chaperone and The Wizard of Oz. Even though the stage will be quiet this summer, on this week's Whiz Kids segment, we're putting the spotlight on some of those student performers in The Wizard of Oz. This past week, I got to meet up with 11 up-and-coming performers who put together this awesome fan video. Let's meet some of those Munchkins now.
Anna.
Quinn.
Avery.
Gail.
Kennedy. Naya. Hudson. Kira.
Taylor.
Nathan. Johan.
And we are the Rainbow Stage Munchkins from The Wizard of Oz.
Follow the yellow brick road.
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 Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick, follow the yellow brick, follow the yellow brick road. You're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. You'll find he is a whiz of a whiz, if ever a whiz there was. If ever a whiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. You're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Great work, everyone. We won't get to see your bright faces on Rainbow Stage this summer, but I'm sure we will see you on Winnipeg stages in the future.
Georgette Rahman has been an educator for 10 years. As a stage manager, she has worked for the Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre, Prairie Theatre Exchange, Shakespeare in the Ruins, Manitoba Theatre for Young People, Rainbow Stage, and Dry Cold Productions, just to name a few. What are you up to right now?
Okay, well, as you can see, I am home in my home office. Normally right now, I would be with my grade 3 class half the time and then working as a teacher librarian the other half of the time, both at Harold Hatcher School.
Lovely. Now, what tips would you offer parents and teachers?
Ooh, I think for everybody, it's probably one of the biggest things is take a deep breath and remind yourself that you are doing enough and that you are doing awesome. Because we're all in different places, but we're doing the best that we can with what we have. I think that's really important. I think for parents, it's do what you can academically, but we know that everyone's going to be behind in some way, so don't stress that too much. And the things that you're doing with your kids and the time that you have with them and the connections that you're making through, playing with them or reading together, things like that are just as important. And I think those will be really good when we come back. And for teachers, don't be too hard on yourself. And remember that you are connecting with your kids, which is the most important thing. And we're all navigating this together. It's new to everyone. So those would be my tips.
Awesome. And how does your experience as a stage manager inform you at this time?
I think probably one of the biggest things is creating connection. When you're working in theater, you only have about 6 to 12 weeks where you're working with someone. And so as a stage manager, you want the actors and the director and everyone to be able to trust you, to know that you have their back. And so I think that translates into both in classroom and even now too, just connecting with parents and kids. I think the other thing is being able to see the big picture and know what the show has to be, but being able to see those little pieces in between and how to get there and who needs to know what information. It's similar when you're working with, 20 awesome little bodies who are trying to figure themselves out and to get to know them. And just being able to have a lot of balls in the air at the same time, but still be able to hear kind of what's going on over there or what's happening.
Awesome. Now, do you have any thing that you'd like to share with the students out there?
We miss you terribly, and you are the reason why our job is awesome. And we are so looking forward to getting back together when we can safely do so. And it's hard right now, and we know that. But just trust and have hope, because we know that we're going to be together soon, and just keep being awesome.
Hi friends, how are you holding up? I know this pandemic situation really sucks for a lot of us. Some of us have lost our jobs and we don't know how we're going to support ourselves. Some of us are having to work in precarious or unsafe situations. Some of us are working from home while homeschooling kids or taking care of toddlers. Some of us live alone and haven't been touched by another human being in months. Some of us are scared or lonely or stressed. It's a hard time. So when I'm experiencing a rough time, when I feel like the given circumstances of my life are conspiring to make me unhappy or stressed or frightened, there's this line from Hamlet that I try to remember. I don't always succeed, but I try. And the line is, "There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." And I know it's a bit rich coming from the guy who claims to have lost all his mirth, who schleps around in an inky cloak, consumed with grief. But to be fair, the line comes near the end of the play where presumably he's on the verge of some sort of transformation. I was recently injured and I was dealing with quite a bit of pain. And a friend of mine named Christopher House, who's a choreographer and a dancer and a great human being, came to visit me in the hospital. And he told me about going through a similar injury himself. But he told me that as a dancer, he doesn't think in terms of pain. He thinks of it as sensation. He said that dancers sort of train themselves to remove the value judgment from the experience. They don't have pain. They have sensation. Impressive, right? Think of that next time you go see a dance show. Dancers are amazing. But I'm wondering if we can borrow some wisdom from Hamlet and from my friend Christopher and reframe our experience of this pandemic. Can we step back from our fear and our anxiety and our stress? Can we take a little distance away from the panic and the longing and the anxiety long enough to just reframe what we're feeling in non-judgmental terms? Can we feel everything we're feeling, but not give over all our power to those feelings? Can we change the way we think in order to change our experience of the situation, to change our world? I mean, come on, if Christopher can do this with pain, with actual physical pain, surely we can get on top of our emotions, right? We all like to feel like we're in control, like we don't want to be destabilized or set adrift or buffeted by the winds of fate. But fate is capricious and fickle. We're not really in control of anything outside of ourselves. Hell, we're not even in control of what happens inside our own bodies most of the time. All we can really master is our minds. And I think if we can do that, then some good can come out of this pandemic. If we can talk in terms of good, in such judgmental terms. But honestly, if we can master our minds, we'll be capable of anything.